You ever notice how the best comedians seem to be the most observant? Their jokes typically start with something that sounds like, well, do you ever notice how, and what comes next undoubtedly lands with us because they're referencing a shared experience or we can immediately identify with it. Now, I'm not trying to give you the blueprint to be a great comedian, although I venture to say that's a great common ingredient. But it brings me to a topic that I think would land with pretty much everybody. Now, in these videos, I have found myself referencing a lot of lessons that I learned from my time in search and rescue, and I honestly didn't set out to do that. They just seem to really apply. Now, I'll tell you a quick story about one of the most interesting field training exercises that we had, and it was led by an absolutely phenomenal survivalist, bushcrafter, search and rescue professional. This person, as he describes himself, has spent more time under the stars than under a roof in his life. I think what we were practicing that weekend was tracking. Now imagine this. You have a whole squad of search and rescue folks, and we're all kitted up, and we've got our search area, we have our map grids, we have our comms set up. We're ready to go and actually get things underway. And his instruction was to get us to the edge of the search area, drop kit, and sit. Literally the antithesis of what we wanted to do. And I thought it was a little weird at first, but I trusted. And what he had us do was rather interesting. He had us sit and listen and close our eyes and observe and write things down. And I want to say it was like 10 minutes. So it wasn't something that was like, hey, really quickly, just do this and get ready to go. I'll tell you what it did. It gave us our baseline, and it definitely gave us a view to the rhythm of our surroundings. Why was this important? Because then it became a lot easier to spot pattern disruptions or abnormalities in the environment. And when you're tracking or searching for sign, that's exactly what you want to do. Because in search and rescue, you don't search for subjects, you search for clues. How does this translate into your professional life? I'll ask you a question. How many people like a new leader that comes in and starts making sweeping changes without getting to know you or the business first? The answer is probably nobody. And the comment that you typically hear is people say things like, they don't know us yet. So here's the reality. Observation is valued whether or not you realize it. Here's how to leverage observation. And I'll be honest with you, one of the questions that I love to get is when someone asks me for my opinion on something. Why? And again, that's a broad, general ask me for my opinion. But the reality is it means that my perspective and my insights are valued and requested. So yeah, stroke the ego for sure, but someone's asking me for my contribution. I like that. And that is also your time to shine. So my recommendation is to be observant about things before you're asked for your observation. Kind of makes sense, right? Now, do you know what an uninformed observation is? The answer is a rant. And honestly, these kind of rants and answers or opinions, they get exposed really quickly when you start getting pressed for details. Like if someone were to say, what are your thoughts on X, or how would you change Y? And someone spouts off an answer, and then the follow-up response to that is, well, tell me more, or where did you come up with that, or what are you basing your thoughts on? If that reservoir isn't filled, you have nothing to draw on, except emotion, and emotion doesn't play well. And honestly, you probably won't get asked for your opinion again. So what does a good opinion or observation sound like? Well, it's going to have a lot of specifics. You're going to be able to cite use cases, facts, specific issues, and you're going to be able to draw a logical conclusion that everybody in the conversation can see coming. You know what else observation does? If you, I'm not even going to say master the skill, but if you just practice the skill, it makes you look like you don't need any warm-up laps. Think about it. You're watching a baseball game, and you see the batter come up to bat and just step in and stare at the pitcher and doesn't need to do all the stretching, all of this like a pinch hitter does. They are locked in from the time they step on the field. That should instill some fear into the defense. And that's how I want everybody here to be. So think about any topic that you're passionate about. It could be sports, it could be politics, it could be religion, it could be baking, it could be a book club. Pick your topic. If somebody came up to you on the street and asked you a question about your chosen domain, would you be able to answer it? And the answer is going to be yes. Why? Because of your interest and your observation. And the same principle applies to work. And if you're consistently engaged, intentional, and you just watch what happens around you, you're going to be able to contribute to the conversation. Now, honestly, you don't always know when these situations are going to arise. So, my recommendation is know your job, know your space, know your company, know your function, know your goals. Be involved in what you do on a daily basis so that when the time comes, you're ready without pause and with conviction. And here's the thing, what if somebody asks you a question or asks for your insight on something that's just a little bit off topic for you? Well, if you're observant and engaged, you can typically connect the dots pretty quickly and you can make some sense. And that also inspires confidence. Ultimately, the important thing here is to be able to, number one, have an opinion, and number two, provide it. Another byproduct of the observant person, they're typically more engaged in what they do. That also means they probably look better doing their task than their peers. Their outcome and output is probably better than their peers. And people in supporting organizations probably know their name. Because honestly, it's hard to be observant, involved, and not engaged. Now, granted, the definition of engagement is going to be different for everybody. For example, you might love your profession, but you might not be overly enthused about your current company or your current position within the company, things like that. And that's okay because you can typically get past those short term annoyances and you can focus on bigger picture. What's moving in your industry? Have your own SWOT analysis ready. Look at market trends, impacts, things like that. The bottom line is this, being observant is both self-serving and beneficial to others at the same time. It's literally the opposite of going through the motions. And honestly, it can create a gravitational pull to draw others towards you because they want your perspective. It develops pattern recognition, and it's also a hedge against technology and obsolescence. And I'm going to be talking about technology and disruption in a coming video. Observation over time and scale is insight and context. That is hard to automate. Let me know your thoughts on this, if it helped at all, or if you disagree with any or all of what I said. Most of all, remember to be intentional.